Is there a beautiful community there? I am so grateful to all of you for beautiful, beautiful messages. As you can see, I'm in my own bed. So let me tell you a little bit the story of my day, but also really give you a sense of where my health is at. So this is just going to be a health update video. I have been in hospital a few times with extreme moments as an ME patient, quite a few times. But today I think was one of the two most dramatic. So it was a short time, about less than 12 hours. The last particularly shocking time was about a decade ago when I, for the first time, entered into a dimension of having brainstem problems. And without having experienced anything before of that kind, I suddenly was presented with a situation where I couldn't feel my jaw and one of my arms, and I couldn't control my swallowing or my breathing, which of course convinced me that God was having an existential confidence crisis about not being able to tolerate the genius of my upcoming philosophical contribution. And today was dramatic for a different reason. So let me give you a tiny context. ME is a bloody violent condition, and just describing that hospital visit 10 years ago indicates how violent it is. But putting the violence aside, in terms of functioning, I, for most of the time that most of you would have known me, have been working 2 or 3 hours a day from home. But 2 months ago, I had, for the first time, COVID, and because of God's jealousy, that unfortunately led to myocardial and pericardial damage, inflammation in the heart, and microvascular damage more generally. One of the things that occurred as a result is a sort of ever-present chest pain that made it difficult for me to stand up, sit up, or breathe well. And you've seen that reflected in how I've been talking with you. It's been going on for 2 months. It's been from already having a life-altering illness, that's been further life-altering to get this post-COVID cardiac damage. Now, it takes a lot for a patient like me to decide to go to hospital for obvious reasons, because our tolerance for nightmarishness is really high. But in the end, I made that decision, or that decision made itself for me last night, and so I went. And I was really struggling with lots of symptoms, including struggling to breathe and very considerable chest pain and sort of some loss of feeling and sweats and pins and needles and so on. That's of course on top of all of the regular neuroimmunological ME symptoms. And soon after I arrived, the narrative developed that this was a suspected heart attack, and I'll tell you exactly how that happened. And it took some time, hours of ECGs, repeated blood tests, echoes, to get to the conclusion that that wasn't what was happening. But for a while, I was being told, look, you've got ME, it's really bad, you've got this post-COVID stuff that's disabled you further. And on top of that, we're suspecting that this is a heart attack. And that felt existential, because the baseline with which I'd be starting would be very precarious and for undergoing any treatment. any procedures, and of course I'm intolerant to a large number of the medications that are given in hospital. So this was a very precarious predicament. However, I wasn't having a heart attack. And this story started because of the severity of my symptoms and the way the hospital AI read my ECG. So what happened is that when the hospital AI saw my ECG, it said MI, myocardial infarction. And suddenly a commotion began, and I was realizing that people were being extremely hurried about me, throwing things into my mouth, shifting me. And I knew I was profoundly unwell symptomatically, but I suspected that something else was going on that I wasn't understanding, and eventually that's what was conveyed to me, that was the suspicion. So it took a while to get over that. And that's the wonderful news, that I wasn't having a heart attack. But the challenging news is that, of course, I have the same microvascular damage and heart inflammation that I went to hospital with. And of course, I didn't get any solutions for that, which is a story that continues to disable me. I have the possibility to try some interventions, and I have a cardiologist looking after me in relation to this. And the feeling is that this stuff doesn't heal by itself, but there is a chance of throwing some drugs at it, which will happen over the next few months. So that's the story, beautiful community. It's a pleasure to share it with you. And of course, I held you and held your relationship with the world and held your relationship with politics in my arms, as well as holding philosophy a little bit throughout this experience. And I'm profoundly moved by all the extraordinary messages, each one of which I will read and heart, that I saw coming through from you during this experience. So, health allowing, we will talk analytically soon. So much love for now.